not far away.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Concord Township Zoning Commission meeting Tuesday, March 6th to order. We have a busy agenda this evening. Item number 1 on the agenda is the site plan review application, number 032 from Mr. Matthew L. Weber, agent for Unistar Hospitality LLC, is requesting site plan approval for a proposed hotel located at 11200 Gold Court and being permanent parcel number 08-A-00-B-00-004-0. The applicant here?
I am.
Okay, would you come on up and state your name and address for the record for me, please, and give us your show.
I'll try and make this simple and straightforward. Matthew Weber, Weber Engineering Services, 2555 Hartville Road, Rootstown, Ohio. We've actually looked through the staff report, and it's a very thorough and concise report. It identifies pretty much what we're presenting for the project as a new hotel at the end of what's currently a vacant street, if we want to call it that, or a non-developed, sounds a little bit better, street. It's about 2.5 acres. The stormwater management has been provided at the main entrance for the entire development. And we actually have looked through the items in the report. We can comply with everything that is asked from a conditional standpoint. With, I guess I hate to say with the exception, but maybe an item for discussion would be item number 1 in the staff recommendations where they identify a system of shared driveways and cross-access easements to be implemented. And I know that's a recent addition to, I believe, your codified ordinances. We were actually not aware of that at the time. It just was passed. The concern that we have is really from a liability standpoint with this as a hotel. It's been our experience in the industry that most of the issues come from parking lots and sidewalks when it comes to lawsuits, whether it's ice, snow. Obviously, in this area, we do have a lot of ice and snow. And it becomes a matter of, with a shared driveway, who has that responsibility. Trying to come into agreements with an adjacent property, come up with who's responsible. Parcel A has someone that gets injured traveling to Parcel B, who's responsible for it. So from a liability standpoint and the franchise, Holiday Inn Express, they are asking that we not have a shared driveway situation. We actually went to great lengths when this was being subdivided. We were kind of on the front end of this, although the project's been going on for about 10 years. When I say front end of the subdivision, the recent subdivision that was just recorded, to actually purchase enough land to where we could fit in a second entrance. Because at the time there was no code or a request to have a shared entrance. So we actually took it upon ourselves to make sure that the parcel was large enough that we could fit this, and it kind of came as a surprise to the project, the timing of it. So it really comes down to that concern of liability, and we're requesting that we be able to go with the plan that we have before you in lieu of trying to find out at
Now, which is the driveway that would indicate the shared?
I'm sorry, this would be the indicated shared driveway. There's a parcel here. And ironically, we actually looked at that parcel at one time, and it wasn't large enough, and to subdivide and do things differently, it would have pushed these lines, and it would have changed a lot. So we actually came to this side, and actually worked out an agreement where we're having to tear down part of the existing hardware store. Part of the existing hardware store will actually be demolished so that we could get the length and get things that we needed for that. So this is the parcel, and that is parcel sublot 3, is I believe is what the current demarcation of it is. So that's what we're asking. Other than that, we can everything else I think was we pretty much hit it on the money. There's a few lighting things that they want addressed, and a couple call outs for the area to save some trees. But that's the one that's really for us is is I guess, a tough pill to swallow in trying
So
to
we
do that.
can't, so your project would only, if you can't do the shared driveway there, then the project pretty much would be unacceptable for you? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
I mean, I'll have to say this, as the agent, I think maybe Neil can speak to the fact of whether or not it's a no-go. I think it may be that we would forego that entrance altogether. But again, at the same time, we intentionally went to get this parcel big enough to have the two lots. So to say we would completely pull out, I know there are options for some other areas, but this is where, this is where we want to be, went to great lengths to get that to work. And I think it may be, from a liability standpoint, we'd prefer to not have the entrance.
Now typically that would be a shared entrance to the next lot over?
From my understanding of what the intended new resolution was to the code, was that the idea would have been to try and find a way to get these two, whether it was straddled, whether it was here, there was a connector, to find some way to get some continuity through there, so that there were no, so that you didn't have a whole bunch of curb cuts. Let's just say you didn't have a bunch of curb cuts through here and have, clutter or whatnot at the cul-de-sac. So the plan over here, they could certainly have a single entrance, as we would have had we actually not worked to get this parcel over here. Through that process, we worked to split this off so we can have that, but this parcel was originally intended, I think, to be here, and we would have had just a single entrance, which is what the adjacent property would too. And again, from a liability standpoint, and in a hotel, you've got people coming and going, and they're not always, I won't say they're not regulars. Sometimes when you go to a place, you're local, and you go to McDonald's all the time, you know that you kind of know how to maneuver your way, and you know what the walks are like and where to cross. And when you have a situation where you have people that are coming in visiting, and they don't necessarily know they're crossing over, property lines, and then it just becomes a liability issue in the big picture of it.
Being in the construction business as you are, isn't there any way you can take that driveway in such a way to make it safer, in the sense that, say it's not straight. In other words, anyone that would come to see it would either have to make some type of a maneuver that they would have to slow down, so it would minimize the chances of an accident happening?
Well, and I don't think so much the issue is speed through there.
Right.
It's really a matter of, with snow and ice, and no matter how much, I remember I did a Giant Eagle years ago, and they kept the thing as clean as they could possibly keep it. And it seemed like, everybody always wanted to have a lawsuit because it was a Giant Eagle. They'd slip and fall, and it was obviously Giant Eagle's fault that he slipped and fell. Well, this is introducing two properties. I don't know that it's so much automobiles. And to be, quite honest with you, I don't know that that would be as big of a situation as it is just the fact that you've got two connections that are, two properties that are kind of interconnected there, and you've got, somebody decides, they come in here and they decide they're parking here just because that happens to be where they're at, but they realize they're at this hotel or this, this facility, and they're walking across, and now something happens right there, and they're on somebody else's property when it happens, but yet they aren't even participating in the function of this property. So it's just really, and they have actually, there's a hotel in, I apologize, is it in Cranberry? The hotel in Cranberry, where they were forced to do the same thing, and to have a shared entrance, and it's been an issue. It's always been a matter of how's it kept clean? Who's responsible for it? Well, this the asphalt's getting worn up here, and it just becomes problematic, we'll say. So from that perspective, again, we're trying to say, as much effort as we went through to get it to this point, we'd like to see that it stay in this function.
And the two entrances is really you feel it's important, it's that important to have the two entrances, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we, worked hard to get that extra property and spent the extra money to work that out and tear down part of a building and whatnot, was to be able to have that room and access for the two entrances. I think if it came down to, if it had to be no entrance, if it had to be no entrance or just the one entrance, I think that would probably be what the franchise would prefer to go with, would just be, okay, we'll just live with a single entrance. Despite the fact that we spent a lot of money to do that, and we probably didn't have to get to that point, but that would be, I think, probably the next preferred would be just a single entrance. Correct.
I would think probably having a single entrance for one thing would minimize probably traffic concerns for one thing. And then again, you're talking about the reliability as far as somebody falling during the winter months and stuff and upkeep. That would minimize, needless to say, the
Sure.
chance of,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. The thing about with this, especially with the way, and one of the reasons why we try that is, with the canopy and porte couture, if you want to call it, in the front, it allows people to come in, drop off, and although we have, a dual function where you can actually go out that way, you'll find that with that second entrance, it kind of keeps the traffic away from the front of it too. Where you come in and you usually come in and you do what I do, and you drop off your wife and children and do all the nice things and go and check in, and then they wait for you. But then I always find when we leave the hotel, we all just run out together and get in the car, and then we're gone. So having the second entrance kind of keeps that front, or I'll call it the second, entrance or exit, keeps that front from being congested. So that's why with this particular layout and the way this is done, we were trying hard to get the second entrance with the elongated frontage there. So that's kind of what the intent was from a congestion standpoint in the front. Otherwise, you're pushing everybody every time you're going back and forth through the front. And the idea is to have this full a lot, right? So people are always coming in and staying at the hotel. So you try to keep the traffic away.
Right. It's kind of a single-purpose cul-de-sac. I don't see it's going to have a lot of traffic necessarily.
No.
It's a relatively short, golf course, and doesn't go very far back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see a lot of ancillary traffic back there unless you're going to the hotel, or if whatever other business is planning on coming into those couple of spots. I mean, curb cut wise, I don't see that it gets too out of hand for that area. And not having it, not having the shared drive.
Yeah.
I think you're right from a traffic flow standpoint, having two entrances
Right.
or an entrance exit type of thing is a smart way to go. You guys have any opinions on it?
Well, my comment would be, first of all, shared driveways. I just experienced one last night. It's a restaurant, a gas station. I was where I wasn't supposed to be, really. It was confusing. I don't like those, but I do like the fact the two driveways, because as you say, you drop off your luggage and your family and you go over and park, and then if you're going to go out to dinner, and hopefully these people will use our local restaurants, it makes it real easy to come out the other end and not get involved in the incoming guests. So I like the two entrances like that, and I just as my personal preference, and I know that's not the rule, but I don't like shared driveways.
I think I agree. I think you've got a nice flow.
Yeah.
I've experienced with hotels like that. I mean, I agree. You come in and then you leave. That's nice having that option.
Right.
I think from a flow standpoint, that's good. I'm not overly bothered by the lack of a shared driveway either. Especially because we don't know what would be over there. That's kind of speculative too. So half the equation missing. You don't know what kind of traffic volume. You don't know what kind of access that.
Right.
If it was something that was already there or something that was coming in, we knew what was going to be next, that might be a different conversation, but.
And another point is safety. If we had to have an emergency vehicle get in, that one driveway could be blocked with traffic or something like that, it'd be easier always to get in a safety vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an objection to the two driveways. I guess the question I would have is, it sounds to me like what you're saying is that the Holiday Inn would probably never permit a shared driveway or in the future. So if that development that I'm looking at, you're the first person on the block.
Right.
So, if the next person coming in wanted two driveways, would there be an opening for them to be able to obtain an easement, an ingress egress easement on there and make that connection to that second driveway in the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, I've got it, I mean, from with the liability issue of it, I would have to say it would probably be a hard sell. I mean, from a franchise, they have certain things they look for, and those are the things that the franchisee goes and looks for, to make work on the property, and we've looked at a number of different places, and again, that's why we work so hard in dealing with the existing hardware store. I've got to say, chances are slim that it would actually, they would have come to terms and agree to an easement. If it came, to a matter of fire safety or something like that, then that's probably a bridge that you could cross at that time if depending on what went in over there, if there had to be some sort of access just for, a fire. We've done them before where you have a fire bollards, that they're breakdown bollards, and we've done things in between them where you don't even know that it's an access way. But if fire safety or someone had to come across there, depending on how the layout was, that's something that could probably be talked through. And again, from a liability standpoint, to have things going back and forth through there's been their biggest concern.
So if push came to shove, a one driveway plan would be acceptable
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you. I mean,
yeah.
you wouldn't get a lot of pushback from the franchise to only limit it to one.
No, I don't believe we have the pushback from the franchise, because it still gives, it just limits or limits the ability for that, what we'll call the
Yeah, then it funnels all the traffic
funnels
flow
it all
back,
right.
back in front of the hotel where people are dropping off. Yeah, I understand how that creates an issue.
But that would be the preferred, obviously, is this. I believe the second option would be to not to have one, and then the last would be a matter of, either if we had to go to that, they would actually start to reconsider this parcel versus other parcels that they've looked at to see if it would work.
Right. Has there been any other interest in some of the other parcels that are involved back there as far as other potential uses that you can at least give us an idea if there's any interest back there?
There is some interest on the parcel to the north, another commercial use,
Right.
and then also the corner of Cryle and Goldport.
That's up front though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the other end of
So that, the curb cuts there wouldn't affect what we've got going here in the cul-de-sac?
it. Right, yeah, and this, just a reminder, this subdivision has 5 lots, so there's only one to the west of here that has frontage on Cryle and Goldport, and then 3 on the north side.
Yeah, the dotted line is the existing Crow Road True Value, I take it?
Yeah, and they actually
Little box, that
they
little-
demoed that back out the building last week.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you got the bio,
No.
that
I
is
went to see it,
down.
but it was gone. It wasn't there. I didn't see it.
And just to confirm, what Matt said, they did purchase basically almost an additional lot in order to get the 2.4 acres. I know when Route 44 LLC was originally designing the subdivision, even when they platted it, actually your clients acquired another 0.78 acres of land in order to accommodate the project. to get the layout that they have now. So,
Right.
Quite a bit more land in order to move forward with this.
They weren't giving it away.
They weren't?
They weren't, they
Wow.
weren't giving it away.
Can't imagine.
A little more than engineering fees.
Heather, do you have any input on that with the shared driveway aspect, or what's your thoughts?
Well, being that it is a short road, limited number of parcels, and just the fact that they, acquired the additional land in order to try to accommodate the two, I mean, I guess staff feels like it might create a hardship for them, being the fact that they've done the due diligence and tried to make it, fit,
Right.
and that with this being coming in at the last minute.
Right.
as-
Yeah, it's kind of a timing issue.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, our discussions about the shared driveway were more dealing with main roads.
Yeah.
Right.
than A small cul-de-sac like this with a few lots on it.
Yeah, so that was my thought process. It doesn't seem like there's a lot, this isn't gonna be a high traffic area.
Right.
I mean, you're either gonna be doing business you're either gonna be in the hotel or you're gonna be, there's not that many other locations for businesses back there. It's not like it's gonna be a bustling area with a lot of traffic.
Well, and along those lines, and not to skip to another topic, but it might, I know one of the requests was, or maybe it's a requirement, was for a traffic impact study. And I don't know if it has to be probably discussed more with the county engineer in his review, but I'm looking at this saying, well, right now there's zero.
Right.
And when we come in, there's gonna be, ideally, there's, 50, 60 cars a day based on our, projected occupancies and things like that. So the traffic study, I'm hoping that Mr. Haddon and his group had just used kind of a generalized term of traffic impact study, because I can't see spending, $5,000-6,000 to do traffic analysis all the way down 44 and whatnot, just to come up with a count of 60. So I don't know if that's a place for you guys. I wasn't actually gonna bring that up, but we kind of talked about traffic. If that's something that you guys are able to, as a board, are able to say, okay, yeah, we understand it's been requested, but it's not necessary, given the short cul-de-sac and the fact that we got zero to start, and hopefully, the month after we open, we've got 60. Or if that's something I need to just discuss with Mr. Haddon. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
a board issue or.
Yeah, we can't, that's not really up to
Okay,
us.
that's fine. I just thought while I was here and we talked traffic a little bit,
Right.
I'd ask, so.
I know it's a pretty hot button subject, and
Sure.
we're very passionate about traffic, so
Yeah.
not being able to get into the details is very disappointing. but-
Okay. Understood.
Now, with regards to the staff recommendations, the additional stone cladding component, you're okay with that on the?
Oh, is that, are we talking design review as well?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
yeah,
jumping-
I was kinda holding
Jumping the
back.
gun, jumping the gun.
That's all right. I wanted to
Yep,
see you
no,
guys
no,
here in a
that's
few
right.
minutes.
Yes, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, all right, no problem.
So, yes, I like the entrance and exits. I mean, I think I think even more from a safety standpoint, being able to get I'm more concerned about, getting a fire truck in or out,
Ambulance.
having two options, being able to get in the two entry. As much as I understand the new regs that are coming into place and things like that, but being that it's a short cul-de-sac, probably not gonna be a high traffic area, it's not a main street. I'm not as twisted up about that as,
Right.
I'm okay with that if you guys are okay with it. I mean, I don't think that's a big issue. I would prefer the two than to just drop it to one. I think it creates a little bit of a cluster problem there, and I don't see how that serves the public good, taking that entrance out of there,
Agreed.
so I'm okay with that. So, now what's the, So we're gonna have to, what do we need to do? We're gonna have to get the motion, how are we gonna, Counselor, how are we gonna handle this from a,
I just wanted to, there's 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you want to go through those, Andy?
yeah,
Before, and then the motion will be made to approve the site plan application subject to the conditions that you've been reading.
okay.
And as far as items 2, 3, and 4, we can comply with all of those. There's just some, few cleanup items and.
Yeah, the revising the plans to designate the tree save area. We've talked about the shared driveway. So we're good rather than the 50-foot golf course buffer,
Yeah,
okay? And then revising, number 3 would be to revise the plans to indicate the tree save area will be delineated in the field with construction fencing prior to major clearing or construction, and it'll remain in place until the construction is complete. We're good
Correct.
with that?
correct.
And then the updated lighting plan to reflect most current site layout plan,
Yes,
light
correct.
poles, all that.
I have a question on the lighting.
Yes,
I looked at a satellite view of that piece of property, and at the east end of the parking lot, there's a small buffer zone, and then there's a fairway in Quail Hollow, and on the other side of the fairway, there are at least 3 houses that are right up next to the fairway, and by my calculation, maybe 400 feet from that parking lot.
okay.
Would the light be such that there wouldn't be light pollution? In other words, it'd be downward cast lighting?
Correct,
So
yes.
it wouldn't bother those neighbors?
Yeah, the way the lighting is intended, it actually stays within the property
Okay.
lines. So I thought you were gonna ask if we could light the fairway so you could golf at night. I was gonna say, we can't do that, at least not within the code, but we can talk later. so.
And if you look at the property, in the summertime, it wouldn't be an issue because there are actually trees by the fairway and there'll be a few trees there, but in the wintertime when the leaves are down,
Right.
it's a straight shot. And it can't be 400 feet to those
Right.
houses.
Yeah.
I just was concerned they didn't want their house lit up all night, all winter.
Yeah, no, we actually have it set up so that the lighting is actually, it's cut off at the property lines before it
Okay.
gets to the property
Okay.
lines. so.
Very good.
There's a minimum standard that we have to meet for the franchise, and then obviously a maximum that we can't exceed for township regulations, and then at the same time, we have to be wise with the light pollution.
So those people looking out of the back of those houses over there really wouldn't see much at all? Okay. Thank you.
So if we drop, so then what do we do then?
You make a motion to approve the site plan review application and then just read in the conditions 2, 3, and 4.
So we exclude
One.
condition 1?
Right.
Okay. Understood, gentlemen?
Understood.
All right. I'll entertain a motion in the affirmative to accept this site plan review application as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept, or a conditional approval, of the site plan review, per staff recommendations, number 2, 3, and 4. That's to revise all plans to designate a tree save area rather than a 50-foot golf course buffer as required by section 3809. Do I need to read all these?
No, I think
Okay,
we're
I'm
good.
sorry. All right, so then,
Sorry.
you do own it,
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. 3809.
Read on.
Of the zoning resolution. And number 3, to revise plans to indicate that tree save area will be delineated in the field with construction fencing prior to major clearing or construction, that the fencing shall remain in place until construction is complete. And number 4, to update the lighting plan to reflect the most current site layout plan. Make sure the location and type of light poles proposed are legible on the map.
Okay. I have a motion made. Can I get a second?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Let the record reflect. All ayes, none opposed. Okay, so
Thank
that
you all.
component is done. Site plan review. Now we get into the good stuff.
Make it pretty,
What's that?
make it pretty.
Yeah. Okay, so item number 2 on the agenda is the design review application number 032. Mr. Matthew L. Weber, agent for Unistar Hospitality LLC, is requesting design review approval for proposed hotel located at 11200 Gold Court and being permanent parcel 08-A-020-B-00-004-0. So, we have the staff report for this as well. And I'm assuming everything is acceptable.
Yeah, you know, we do have, from the comment, it really indicated that there's requesting some additional stone, maybe to wrap the door. You know, there's stone around the backside, as I understood it, it's just more or less to maybe add a little pizzazz, and pull this up around, or something to make some columns, and again, it has to be finalized by the franchise, but I don't see adding a little bit of stone as being an issue. And as a condition, obviously, to the plan, I don't think that's gonna be an issue. We just have to get final approval from them, and it's not always a quick phone call,
Right.
but.
And it's only the west elevation, it's the west elevation, Heather?
That's what we were recommending, just
Right.
as you're driving down
Approach,
Gold
right.
Gold Court and approaching the building, that's the end of the building.
And actually, yeah, I believe this is,
They might have been mislaid.
well,
Right.
well, these are labeled right and left, and I've
Yeah.
got to assume they're labeling them based on as you're looking at the building, so it would be actually the one on the bottom, but, yeah, it doesn't appear to be, that it would be an issue. I certainly, I can't imagine they're gonna wanna take their hotel somewhere else just to have a little bit of stone around the door, so. So we don't see any issue with that.
Any questions from the commission?
None for me.
It's a nice looking building.
Yeah.
Are the signs on the building, are they lighted? Or are they,
Are they? Yeah, they are. They are lighted. And that'll be an actual full separate package, I believe, the actual full signage. This
Yeah,
is
signage.
for this is for
Right, I was just-
representation and, yeah.
so I was just wondering about, just thinking about the layout of that and looking at it, picturing it on the plan layout, is it really necessary to have the sign on the backside?
Oh,
If that would even be visible, and trying to visualize what else is going to be out there adjacent to that, and
The
I'm
traffic,
having trouble putting it in my head. I'd have to go out and look at it, but just seeing what would be on the neighboring properties.
that's
If
BB
it would
Bradley
be-
over there, but northbound on Cryle or
That's
44,
what
you
I
would
was
see
gonna
that.
that's what I was gonna ask. If you're coming down, there's the gas station and
Yeah.
then you come kind of into that, no.
I'm just
Yeah,
trying to think of how
yeah,
far up,
you come
close
to the
to
gas
Cryle
and
it's gonna be if it's.
So it's just a matter of, it's one of those, I think you will see it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when,
Yeah.
you know. Have you
Yeah,
got
I'm
right
not,
up on it? or-
I'm not necessarily opposed to it, I was
Yeah,
just trying to think of what's there and what, if it's even, you're gonna have something lighted that's gonna be bouncing off of another building rather
Right.
than being visible.
Any other discussion on this? Any questions? Concerns? Okay. So we only have one staff recommendation, correct? Am I missing something, or you have the one staff recommendation for the,
Yeah, just
There was one condition that
right,
was recommended.
one condition,
Yep.
additional stone.
Yeah, anything else?
all right? I, at this point, if there's no other questions or comments, I guess I'll entertain a motion in the affirmative to accept the design review application as proposed with the one notation of the one recommendation. Condition?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept, conditionally approve the site plan, the design review application, with the conditional, of staff recommendation number 1 for the additional stone cladding to be added to the west left wall elevation to frame the doorway to give a better impression of the building as visitors approach it from Gold Court.
Okay, we have a motion made. Can I get a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Let the record reflect. You're all set.
All right, thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 3 on the agenda this evening is to accept a zoning application amendment. I'm just looking at it, where did it go? Richard, there it is, okay. Zoning application amendment number 0218-2 by Richard Sommers of Sommers Real Estate Group to amend the zoning resolution text Section 22, and schedule a public hearing. This is the other thing we were talking about. Happened rather fast. This is the parcel directly opposite in the proposed town neighborhood that we opted not to approve last time around, right across the street. So kind of we knew this was coming.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you're right. What this application is, it's a proposed text amendment that would affect all the properties owned in the Town Hall neighborhood. And in the applicant's submittal an application in addition to the proposed text that he would like to be modified. They included a concept plan that, as far as I understand, complies with the proposed text amendment, just for just as an exhibit as part of his application. So the purpose tonight is just to schedule this first public hearing with the zoning commission. Then the process will start. And if we did it at our next regularly scheduled meeting, that would be in compliance with the ORC as far as timelines.
Heather, what kind of housing is this? Is it cluster homes, condos?
Based on the text that was provided,
I
it looks like single-family dwellings.
But it doesn't say whether they're condominium, freestanding condominiums, or...
The way the text is written, it's fee simple lots, so it's, you would own the lot.
Individual
You would own the
houses.
lots in fee simple.
very small houses.
Small lots.
Yeah, and the houses, the square footage of the houses are quite small. That's why I thought maybe it was a condo or a cluster home.
Well, and we can talk about this more at the hearing, but those are the actual, those minimums
Okay.
are what we have in other districts in the township.
Okay.
for residential.
Now, is that Craig's property that this is going to, that the Concord Nursery, is that going to butt up against that?
We could, yeah, I mean, in our next agenda item on the work session, we're gonna go into a little bit more on the Town Hall neighborhood and Commons district, so we can, but yeah, that is Maple Ridge Gardens.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Documents to it, yeah.
A lot of lots. Cramming them in there. Any comments?
That's about the same, I think, density as we've had with the Quail Hollow being built up and all the condos and stuff that's been going in all along that road over the years. the way I see it.
I don't see a problem. I mean, I think, again, conversation for the public hearing or discussion of when a thorough presentation. So my first thought is, considering we had no citizen input on the last request and that this has some kind of a proposal attached to it, I'm wondering if we won't get some feedback from the community on this one. It would definitely be welcome.
I think the only thing we'll probably get feedback on is increased traffic.
Yeah.
That always seems to be the issue. How it affects the people, you know, coming in, like I say, through the Quail Hollow area. I think getting out, it wouldn't affect them because
It's away from them.
it's away from them, you know, so.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? So we'll be able to get this on the agenda, Heather, with the way where we're at?
Right, at the next
Okay.
scheduled, regular, or the April 3rd meeting, if you choose to, I would
Okay.
recommend that you schedule it for.
All right, I'll accept a motion in the affirmative for the zoning amendment application. Richard Summers,
To schedule a public hearing.
schedule the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we schedule a public hearing to accept, for zoning amendment application number 0218-2 by Mr. Richard Summers of Summer Real Estate Group to amend zoning resolution text in section 22 and schedule,
Okay. A motion made,
I'll second.
seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Let the record reflect. All right. So we get that on the agenda, and that'll be set for a public hearing in our next regularly scheduled zoning meeting. What's that date? That is what?
April 3rd.
April 3rd. Tuesday, April 3rd, public hearing. Should be interesting. Okay, now, on the back end of this, item number 4 on the agenda, work session, Town Hall Neighborhood and Town Hall Commons District. Heather, you want to come up and tell us where we're at with that?
Okay, so in your packets, you all have a few maps. The one on top is probably the,
Right.
just a zoomed-in section of the zoning map, kind of highlighting the zoning districts in the Town Hall Neighborhood and Town Hall Commons District, which is basically at the crossroads of Concord, Hamden, and Ravenna. So the parcels shaded in the brown diagonal lines are the Town Hall Neighborhood. The dark brown is the Town Hall Commons. And I'll just kind of talk briefly about like what's in this area and kind of what's around it. On the subsequent maps, you'll see just an aerial photo with the property lines of all the land zoned either Town Hall Neighborhood, which is over here, or the Town Hall Commons. And these are new aerial photos that were just flown in December of 2017, so this is pretty close to what's out there today. So there are currently 28 acre zone Town Hall Neighborhood. This district's located west of Ravenna and fronts upon both north and south sides of Concord and Hamden. The majority of the land is vacant, with the exception of one active gas well and 2 non-conforming, unoccupied, single-family dwellings, along with some accessory buildings. There are approximately 19.4 acres on the north side of Concord Hamden that zone the Town Hall Neighborhood. And this area is bound by I-90 to the north, and there's some existing residential, single-family homes. Also to the north, well, one actually, and to the east, some additional single-family homes and a church. To the west, there is a parcel of vacant land in addition to the corporate headquarters for Grime Horticulture, which is a manufacturing company. It's just a corporate headquarters, but it is zoned manufacturing. The land to the south, which is on the south side of Concord and Hamden, is basically vacant land along with some residential, both multifamily, which is off of Hunter's Trail there, and then also the single-family dwelling that's unoccupied. So then just kind of describe the 8.6 acres of land on the south side of Concord Hampden that's also zoned town hall neighborhood. One existing unoccupied single-family dwelling with vacant land, a little bit of an encroachment from the garden center onto that land. To the east of this is Maple Ridge Garden Center, which is, it's actually a non-conforming use in the Town Hall Commons District, meaning that if that use came in today, it would not be permitted there. There's multifamily to the west of this area and single family to the south, which is a phase of the Quail PUD. And then obviously the land on the north side of Concord Hampden is vacant.
Do you know what the lot size is on Hunting Lake?
Those lots are around, the overall density in Quail Hollow is 3 units per acre. But I believe these lot sizes are close to 20,000 square feet. No, of course, they're close to like a quarter acre.
So like a builder's
So-
third, or
What's that?
a builder's third, or is it less than a third, more like a quarter?
Oh, less than a third. It's more like a quarter acre.
Quarter acre.
Yeah, like 0.2 or, 0.18. I think I have that information in front of me. It's something I can get for you though, what those lot sizes are.
I'm just looking at it from a consistency standpoint of what's already there,
Uh-huh.
and trying to maintain some level of consistency with what, if we're going to change that and allow residential, to keep it at least within the guidelines. And I don't want to pile a bunch of, get crazy with the density issue there. Keep it at least, take into consideration the people that are already there in their properties, and not,
Look-
shrinking things down.
Looks like the lots that run through Quail there on Hunting Lake. You've got some kind of on the end that are larger, and then some that have that little, if it's a cul-de-sac, with that little nub there, have bigger lots, but there's a row of them there that are packed in fairly tight.
Right.
So it'd be nice to see what the range is, the biggest to the smallest, and kind of what the average works out there.
In this phase
Go by
of
the
Quail.
drawing.
Yeah, just what
Just
it
provided with the application, they look like they're about a quarter acre compared.
was it.
These ones are 2/2 of an acre, so, or 2/10 of an acre. So these ones are probably around a quarter to a third.
Yeah, close.
Right, and then
eyeballing
directly,
it.
and directly to the west of that is it's, looks like it's part of Quail, but it's actually not part of Quail. It's an R3 multifamily development, and that's off of Pelican and Peeble and Pine and Gabriel's Landing. So that density is probably more like up to
Yep.
8 units per acre. So that's to the west.
Yeah, we don't want to go in that direction. Or at least I don't. I'm not speaking for the entire.
Well, those are attached condos.
Right,
Yep.
which was permitted under the R3 district.
Yeah, that's all part of the Quail development.
It's not though.
No, but I mean, it's
No.
part of the PUD, right?
No, no. I don't know the time frame of when that went in, but it's not part of the PUD. So everything in the Quail Hollow that's PUD is actually zoned the R2 PUD. This is an R3 development. I don't know what came first. I don't know the history of that. But it looks like it's part of the Quail development, the way it's kind of assimilated
Right.
itself to the neighborhood. Okay, so then we kind of talked about what the land uses are in the town hall neighborhood, basically vacant of non-conforming single-family dwellings, but we also want to take a look at, the town hall commons district, which is just to the east of that, and really, in the town hall commons district encompasses about 36 acres. The property on the northwest corner of Concord Hampden in Ravenna, that's being used for institutional purposes, the church that's located there. The land on the northeast corner contains 2 occupied non-conforming dwellings, while the remaining land is basically being used for public purposes, including the Old Stone School Museum, the community garden, soccer fields, and other publicly owned vacant land on this northeast quadrant. And then if you're looking at the southwest side of Ravenna and Concord-Hamden, I would say about half this land is vacant, while the other half is developed. 2 non-conforming single-family occupied homes, and then the 1 non-conforming landscaping business with some vacant land in between. Then if you're looking on the east side of Ravenna, all of that parcel, the largest parcel on that side is zoned Town Hall neighborhood, or Commons, is owned by the township, and there are 2 smaller parcels that have single-family homes on there that are non-conforming uses that kind of sit next to the fire station in front on Concord-Hamden. So that's a quick overview of what land is in there, what the current uses are, what's kind of the surrounding uses. Well, I didn't really talk about it. I guess to the east of the Town Hall Commons District, we have the Greenway Corridor that runs north and south, which kind of creates a buffer between the neighborhoods to the east, and then also the Environmental Learning Center, which is part of the Metro Parks, and the cemetery is on that side. I've included just a quick existing zoning, what the purpose statements are in the current zoning resolution for both the Town Hall Commons and the neighborhood district. So the purpose of the Town Hall Commons district when this was originally adopted was to preserve and enhance the historic center of the township at the Concord-Hamden-Ravenna Road Crossroads area through a mixture of community facilities, business, and recreational uses that serve as a gathering place for the community. And I think this district, the Town Hall Commons district, is doing that fairly well. I mean, this is where the town hall is. These are where we have the recreation fields, the cemetery, the museum, and access to the Greenway Corridor. And then the Town Hall Neighborhood District, purpose was to complement the historic center of the township at Concord-Hamden-Ravenna Road Crossroads with selective community-oriented business and residential uses while promoting emerging land use patterns. So the Town Hall Neighborhood District, as you know, we haven't had anything, nothing has been developed new in that area since we put this zoning district in place. Some of the uses that are permitted in there include the medical and dental offices, administrative offices, restaurants, personal services, bed and breakfast, business services, child daycare, the residential care facilities, nursing homes, home for the aging, hospice care facilities, and then the one we really can't regulate, which is surface extraction of sand, gravel, and other earth materials. I tried to take a look at how we address these areas in our current adopted comprehensive plans. So in the 2004 comprehensive plan, which is still partially in effect other than what's been superseded in the 2015 update, did talk about recommending the creation of a town center at this intersection at Concord-Hamden and Ravenna. And that was the basis for the township creating both the THN and the THC zoning districts. Originally, when the zoning commission worked with the zoning staff at that time on developing the uses in the Town Hall Neighborhood District, they had an additional opportunity in there for the possibility of single-family detached cluster homes as a conditional use in the Town Hall Neighborhood District. However, as it went through the public hearing process, that ultimately never did get adopted, and what we have today is what was adopted. Since the 2004 plan update, the township embarked on the 2006 Auburn-Cryle Corridor Study, which further explored the idea of this town center However, the location of that shifted from this area to land west of State Route 44 at the intersection of Capitol and Auburn Road. And furthermore, in the 2015 Comprehensive Plan update, there were strategies in there that were recommended to help implement the future town center at the new location. And in addition to that, this board also adopted the Capital District zoning text, which was to help facilitate the creation of that mixed-use town center over at Capitol and Auburn and west of State Route 44 on Capitol. So taking a look at what else did the comprehensive plan update state in 2015? It didn't really make any direct recommendations or really take a look at this area where the Town Hall Neighborhood and Town Hall Commons District is. I think that we need to look at it a little bit more, which is kind of what we're starting now. The 15 plan update did make some recommendations to some of the properties within this area, but not to the districts as a whole. And I did pull out a section of that and provided that to you, where we talked about the best use of the township properties. So a lot of the properties that the township own are in the Town Hall Commons area. And the idea was that in the future, if we need to expand recreational uses over here, depending on the community's needs, we own the land already over here. In the comprehensive plan update, there was, in addition to that, there was a concept plan that was created by a landscape architect, just some idea of what could happen, you know, down the line in this area. There's always been the discussion of purchasing some of these private parcels that are in the Commons District when they come available. They're indicated on the concept plan. It's somewhat of the long-range goal of the community to acquire those, and those specifically are the non-conforming uses that are currently standing in that area, the dwellings at the corner of Ravenna and Concord Hamden, and then next to the fire station on Concord Hamden. There really was not much discussion about the Town Hall Neighborhood District and what the future of that might be, but we do know that the primary focus of where all the commercial development is happening in Concord is really over on the main corridor. People want to be on Cryle. They want to have that visibility. We've seen with the recent addition of the Cryle Crossing Retail Center and the Discount Drug Mart site, and now the hotel that is looking to locate there, and all the other retail uses that I'm constantly getting inquiries about.
See,
There
they're
doesn't
starting
seem to be much
construction-
interest here.
Starting construction on Chipotle now, too.
So that,
Yep, construction
So
has started on.
that's started now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, you know, my concern with this area, you know, we had hoped, I think when we kind of originally put this idea together, I think that we had hoped that it would develop in that direction. But I think for me, and I think one of the reasons it hasn't, in the way that even though I thought we were pretty generous with the options that could go in there and the things that could develop in that area, I think when you look at that section in the township, it's kind of isolated. You know, there's nothing really, there's no way to, anything that's going to be here is pretty much going to be almost to the exclusive use of the people that live in the immediate area. You know, and that's what that's what I think has been I think that's kind of what's been a little bit of a sticking point for, other than housing.
Well,
Okay, you
yeah,
know, to go
I
in
mean-
there, I mean, it's really been anything, you know, anything that would be commercial or
Yeah.
personal services or office I mean, there's nothing, I mean, there's no easy,
Well-
the easiest way to get to the freeway is driving all the way down Concord Hampton Road
in addition,
to 44.
for any of that to happen, you're now having to take something that's either, I mean, right now you've got vacant land,
Right.
chunk of it, residential, and then a little bit of them, you got the landscaping businesses, there's two of them, and then you've got just, and you're looking for those things to turn over and have the ground then become available so someone would go in and build a structure where you would then create an office that, you know, what you're seeing, and we're very big on this, you know, when we talk about zoning, is the fact of where's the interest, okay, we've now had two interests in the vacant land portions of it, and that interest lies in residential. So just extrapolating, if we were to sit there and say, hey, it fits, let's, go ahead with that, you're just pushing that trend further in a direction. You have a chance potentially to continue the residential trend along with the property that you've got the township owning and abutting up to a park and then some residential there. I mean, I think you've got a pretty strong trend on what's popular in that area. Then when you take a look at it, what we've been saying is that what we did with that, and then now the work we've done over in the quarter, Crowd Crossing, the stuff on 44, all the way over to Capitol Parkway and Auburn, and the things that we've conceptually discussed over there, and the adult, we have the nursing homes that are over there, that was talked about, something that might be for this area. They're opting to be closer to the hospital, into that health district, or at least next to it. So I think we have a lot of strong indicators that these purpose statements are out of alignment with what is happening. We're seeing interest that's totally divergent of
And
this.
to add to that, if you'll recall, this larger section, the 2 Osborne properties, there was interest in
Residential.
apartments,
Residential.
which would have been residential. It didn't happen, but it was interest in that purpose.
I think it's a fairly clear indicator what the interest is for that.
Well, I think I think the idea when this was done, I think was genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the concept was there, and now, but there was nothing happening. Well, now things are happening. Development is starting to occur, and the development, and what we're seeing is the demand, and the market is pushing it that way, not this way.
Right.
So what's the point in holding out for something to come this way? At this point, every proposal that's come across our desk here as zoning commission
Residential.
has been on residential. Okay, I haven't seen one proposal to come in here
Right.
for any of this property to be
Commercial.
any kind of commercial use, whether it's personal services, whether it's office, doctor's offices, business, whatever. I haven't seen anything. Everything that's been brought before us has been rezone it and do it as residential.
Yeah,
So it's like how much, and at that point, I think the reason why we held that at bay was because nothing had really been happening yet. Well, now,
Well,
things are happening, and so we see where the emphasis is. So, I guess I'm more prone to rezoning that area and
Right.
changing it.
well, and I think when you think
know.
about too, as it was said earlier, and I forget what point, but we mentioned traffic being an issue. We had a residential proposal for the 2 Osborne properties to turn it into, and if I recall, the bigger part of our issue wasn't so much, it was the density nature of that residential that we didn't like. It was
Right.
high density, we were skeptical that it was the type of product that Concord demanded, and then the other concern was the amount of traffic on Concord Hamden ultimately abutting up at Auburn there, and that being a problematic intersection.
Right.
So, to Andy's point about access and business and traffic, it seems like it's in our interest to really consider how, maybe we look at really evaluate. You've got a couple of proposals potentially here for some residential that would be far less density than that apartment complex is looking at, but yet it's fitting what's around there and it's seeming to indicate a trend. Maybe we, take a look at it from that standpoint and say, hey,
What's
that
the-
fits better. Keeps the density down, and then
Right.
it keeps the traffic on that road a little more reasonable than quadrupling it
What's
with
the
a high
sewer,
density.
what's the sewer access there?
Sewer is available.
For all of this, on the,
Except if you recall, the apartments had a
Well, hold on.
problem with the topography, but the gentleman last month said you can connect to sewers on the
90.
north end by I-90,
Yeah.
So,
so.
right, so sewer is available at Concord, Hamden, and Ravenna, and West. Are we just talking about the neighborhood property right now?
yes, just the
Okay.
neighborhood.
Yeah,
property.
so there is sewer available in front of all the town hall neighborhood property. There is some gravity issue problems with the property on the north that, depending on where the homes or the business would be located, they would be required to do some kind of
Be a pumping
some
station.
kind of pumping station, a gravity lift.
Yeah.
But those are things that, obviously will be
Right.
worked out with the county.
I'm not inclined, personally, in looking at what we've done, I'm not inclined to mess with the other side, with all the Concord Township owned property. I'm not inclined to do
Town Hall
anything.
Commons.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to do
Well,
anything with
especially if you
that.
look at this concept, I
Right.
think that's excellent.
Right. I'm not inclined I'm more inclined to leave that alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Leave it as it is, leave it as it's designated.
As you're looking at it right now, there's really, there's
So like,
2 parcels
Three.
that are vacant.
Yeah.
The rest of them are some non-conforming uses that were there before. So
Right.
you're not dealing with what you're dealing with here, which is
Correct.
4 or 5 vacant lots.
yep,
And if you think about it, if this was rezoned for residential purposes, this site would still be utilized by the residents who live there.
We would love that.
They would love this.
That would be a real attraction.
Because now, we already have, for example, the baseball field. There's been talk in the past about maybe putting in swimming pool and stuff for the township. That would all be utilized by the people living here, and we still have the access to the historical area
In
that they could
the
spend
Gateway Trail.
a Great
Yeah,
Bay Trail.
like I
and
said, I'm not
Great Trail.
inclined to really do anything with the,
Right,
I agree.
portion east of Ravenna.
no,
You know, I'm more inclined to consider,
right.
so then the question is what's the right,
yeah.
is it R1, do you do R1? Because it's got sewer access, it certainly would fit into the R1 designation. And you know, I don't wanna get, I just don't wanna get I don't wanna cram too much in there. So,
Well, R1 requires half-acre property, right? Half-acre lots? R1,
The R1 with sewer access is 22,000 square feet.
22,000 square
so
feet.
it's half acre.
That's half-acre.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, as far as density, it would probably be the best thing suited for that area,
Agreed.
you know? You still won't be jamming people in there, but yet it'll be a comfortable,
Now, what was your, was it Yurko?
Durac?
Yurak,
Yeah.
sorry. No offense, Mr. Yurak. His proposal was what, 3 lots there?
Yeah,
They were what, about half acre,
a little over.
a little over,
a little over half?
yeah.
Yeah, now, see, I think, you know, I think that, and I think if you made it R1-ish and tried to stay true to that design, I think you'd probably have a lot less pushback from the residents that are on Hunting Lake and in that area, you know, if you kept it at a more, as far as the proposal that's here with that other, you know, I mean, they're like really cramped, I mean, they just have got them crammed in there.
Well, there's only one entrance into that too, which
Right.
from a safety standpoint, I don't think that would fly.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fire department prefers
You
to
have
have
to
two
have two,
access.
Well, let's just be careful about what, not talking
Right.
about
Oh,
that.
I
Right,
know, I
no.
know, I know.
But,
I know.
I didn't say
there-
anything by name. I inferred.
Yeah.
Well, look,
So what I'm hearing
if
is
you
it sounds
do-
like you're open to maybe allowing some
Right.
other,
And
single-family residential use in.
What
in
might,
the
I
town
mean,
hall.
I kind of go back to it might be worthwhile to, it would be great to get some feedback in a public hearing. When you have a conceptual idea being presented to you, having seen somebody else's proposal, to be able to get a little bit more of an idea and sort of dialogue about what might be possible, cross that bridge, so to speak, if not to take anything by gospel, but just to know that we're gonna have an additional conversation, an additional process, a presentation by somebody to kick around some ideas, and it certainly brings merit to the table. That conversation might help us craft even more clarity on what to do with this.
If you're talking about R1, at least on the north side of Concord Amden, you're looking at, maximum 40 lots if they cram them in some way. Probably more looking, when you consider roadways and everything else through there, maybe 35,
Right.
32 lots.
And you still want to
on the north
minimize
side.
the amount of traffic. in
Yeah,
that
well, I think
Right,
it
but
would-
you're not talking a ton of.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
think
I
you
think,
would.
I think
Yeah.
at that point, what we're doing is, we're recognizing the need to keep, keep the density under control,
Right.
Right,
and not just have like a free-for-all,
yeah.
So the density in R1 is basically 2 units per acre when you do the math,
Correct.
2 units per acre. I did want to point out, in addition, I had just a couple other points here. In the comp plan update, if you recall, there were some different recommendations that related to well, we kind of talked about this in previous work sessions when we were looking at consolidating all the residential districts and we eliminated the R5 districts, and we talked about whether or not we could zone for, you know, senior housing, which we got the opinion from our legal counsel that no, it wouldn't be appropriate for a township to say, you know, we're gonna allow senior housing here or here, and it's, you know, it'll look like this or that.
Right.
But there was still a lot of discussion in the comp plan update on whether or not, you know, within the zoning, we could allow for, lower maintenance properties, single-family dwellings, whether it be through the R3 district or some other modification to allow, basically a pocket neighborhood. And then this comes right out of the comp plan. I mean, they said to consider a small-scale development such as a pocket neighborhood with a limited amount of acreage and a number of units as an alternative to providing for senior housing that would be compatible with existing neighborhoods in the district. And that kind of, you know, that part of the comprehensive plan kind of struck with me when it came to this, because this is a limit, the town hall neighborhood district is limited. It's, you know, 38 acres, or 28 acres, I'm sorry. 28 acres. If this were to be developed residential, I think it would be compatible with the neighborhoods. From what I'm hearing from other developers, a half acre is still sometimes too large for those aging that really wanna have no,
Right.
you know, maintenance of their property, and they really wanna downsize.
Well, we were also hoping that we wanted to have the residents that were older, still living in the township, to
Yeah.
stay within the township.
Right,
You
yeah,
know, people like myself, for example.
yeah.
They have
There's a lot of
smaller lots.
people looking for
Yeah,
ranches
right.
and lower maintenance properties.
Exactly, so we can encourage them to stay
Mm-hmm.
and still maintain something that would be desirable for them. And that can be done too, so.
I just, when we talk R1, I don't know that that's realistic in the market. I don't think R3 is that type of density, you know, 6 units per acre or 8 units per acre, but I don't know that, you know,
So you're thinking like a hybrid?
I don't really know, but I mean, I think the idea of resident, I think, first of all, would be whether or not you guys think that residential would be a compatible use in this area, and then, this is,
So you're thinking about creating another zoning district that'll
or do
be
we,
able to do that?
I
Or
don't
do we
know,
just
or
put
do we
the
somehow
use-
modify this?
modify
I mean,
the-
with
modify the
original ins-
R1.
Right, yeah, maybe,
Right.
maybe you,
Conditionally,
maybe you allow residential in this
Yeah.
existing district under, this is kind of a, walk. I don't know how to talk about this when we have this other pending application, so I'm just
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Well, we're not, I mean, I think speaking to that point, we're not under pressure to really, this is a work session, so
Right.
possibly, you know, I think we've hashed out a lot. My thought process would be to kind of table this discussion, kind
Yeah.
of see, have the public hearing, kind of see what comes out of that.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, I mean, is there any compelling reason to rush into doing something in advance of that public hearing?
no, I mean.
no,
it
because
might-
I think,
no,
because,
no.
because of the fact that it's the entire section,
Yeah,
you know, that's, south of Concord Hamden, it's not chunking anything up, so to
Correct.
speak. Like
Yeah.
the other one was just that little piece, you know, that little parcel
Right.
in the midst of everything else. This one is pretty much gonna lop off that whole
Right.
chunk of property.
Right.
And we can take a look at that, and then I think.
it's probably
that-
more appropriate to see that fits well with what it butts up to, and that's the
Right.
Quail PUD as opposed
But
to.
you're not saying the south portion is separate from the north, are you?
No, what I'm saying is that if we look at doing, you know, we've got this public hearing coming,
Okay.
okay? And it's encompassing that entire section of that town hall.
And that would give us an indicator.
Whereas,
of
that would
whereas
give us
the
a-
application we denied was kind of an island, would have been,
Yeah, it would've
essentially been an
just a little-
island
Okay.
you know,
in
just
the
that
middle.
little-
And I think the only thing is you know, to Andy's point, what you have is you've got Concord Hamden Road dividing, and I think we're all in somewhat agreement that residential seems like it's the better fit for what's over there now. And the only thing that I see as a differentiator is 608 and one side to the other, it's a matter of density, potentially, I think is what you're talking about.
Keep in
Is
mind
that
too,
your-
the intersection on the west end has been redesigned since we last looked at this property, when the new right turn only and new alternative routes
Oh,
came
up
in.
at
Yeah,
Auburn.
which is where this Concord
Would
Ham
dump
traffic
out.
gravitates to get to the freeway.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, pretty much the vast, if this turns into residential, the odds are that probably 85 or 90% of the traffic coming from that area is going to be
Going west, yeah.
heading west on Concord Hampton Road to get to 44 and 90.
And the last time we talked about it, we had not redesigned that intersection. Now that intersection's redesigned with two right turn
Well,
lanes.
okay, the intersection of at 44, but not the,
But to get to
not
the
the
freeway.
three-way intersection at 608 in
Well,
Auburn,
yeah.
which, and I drove through that for 12 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a scary
It's a
intersection.
dangerous intersection.
Very dangerous.
I don't like that intersection.
That's gonna be what it is regardless.
Right.
I think,
Well, but it's relevant to our conversation about any density we put down that road, because whatever we do, it's gonna have an impact. I mean, it's just a matter of how much of an impact it'll have.
and I think I agree. I mean, as a board, I think we're better off waiting until after, for any further discussion on this. Let's have the public hearing on the south side issue.
Yeah, we don't want to
and
get,
then
yeah,
look
we don't want to
at-
get ahead of ourselves.
Look at the bigger picture. I mean, we
Yeah. Yep.
we put this on, or we're putting this on our agenda after the last one. We weren't expecting to have another one sitting in front of us at the same time we're gonna be
Right.
discussing this.
So I think we've accomplished a great deal of discussion, and I think, you know, Heather does an excellent presentation of pulling together the comp plans and the different things, and then, you know, it's neat to see that, I think I missed that, the architect's concept was kind of a nice, gives you a vision about some things that are possible, and, I think we've got a good grasp of it.
Yeah, you know
for
what
sure.
what I'd like you to do, Heather, is I would like you to take a look at what you think if we do this from a residential standpoint, what would be the appropriate designation, if there's something we can do within the existing zoning designations, or if some modifications to existing, or would it require a creation of another zoning district altogether, or do we stick with the existing designation of town hall neighborhood and maybe just modify that? Includes, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do we need to rezone this to, would we need to rezone this to R1? Or
Well,
would we?
I kind of think, for next month, obviously, we will have the planning commission's recommendation on the
Right.
proposed text amendment.
Right,
I envision as staff, I will probably have a feeling one way or the other, or maybe have some recommendation too, based on what was
Right.
presented. And then I think too, we'll know the outcome of the other still pending zoning map amendment that is still in front of the trustees for the 2-acre piece that has not been decided on yet. That public hearing was continued till tomorrow evening. So whether or not that gets approved or denied, I believe we will know that by next month. But I can start looking at what, a recommendation or what I think is appropriate, but I think I kind of agree, maybe we should table it, and see what happens with the public hearing next month, and then go from there
Right.
for May. If we want to continue to look into it.
I think we're heading in the right direction on this, though. And then I would look to you to give us some guidance on whether it's rezoning to, to an existing zoning designation, or maybe some modification to existing zoning,
Okay.
which would be the path of least resistance on that for us.
You're asking me which one?
No, I'm just,
Oh.
no. I'm saying,
Yeah.
you give us, recommend
Oh,
what
okay.
you, give us
Sure.
your insight as to what you think would be, the best route to take on that, whether it's, developing some additional uses within the town hall neighborhood, or whether we scrap town hall neighborhood altogether and redo it as R1 or some R something,
Okay.
or whatever. So I think that would be a good way to go with that. Okay?
Okay.
So,
Just for my knowledge on that, what was prior to the town hall neighborhood, what were those parcels zoned?
Business
Manufacturing
or
on the north side.
It was
business.
manufacturing on
manufacturing?
the north.
Yeah, manufacturing on the north side.
manufacturing.
What was I don't know, on the south, was that awesome? Sorry.
It was it was my assumption that the north side was manufacturing based off of the
Yeah.
adjacent parcel, but
Yeah.
it was just a curiosity
I'd have to
thing.
pull out
more
an
of-
old map, but I think it
Yeah.
was M.
Okay.
They were hoping
might have
that it
all
would
been.
stay manufactured because the Quail Hollow people didn't want to see it change to anything else, and
Right.
they knew it would never be developed that way. So they
Right.
felt it would always stay vacant like it is today, all right? And when we had the school and everything over here, even though it was mixed, it was going
Right.
to stay that way. You want everything just to stay the way it was.
Okay. Yeah, it
Okay.
was just a curiosity.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We had a little snafu the last time. Some people were inappropriately labeled.
They have been corrected.
Everything's been corrected. So the first item is the approval of the minutes of the January 23rd meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the corrected minutes of the January 23rd, 2018 meeting.
Motion made,
Second?
seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Not opposed, let the record reflect.
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain on that. since I was
Abstention
not-
from
not
Jerry?
present.
Right, you weren't present for January. Okay, item number 6 on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the February 6th, 2018 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the February 6th, 2018 meeting.
We have a motion made,
Second?
seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Not opposed, let the record reflect. And item number 7, correspondence report by zoning commission members. Frank,
None, Mr. Chairman.
Morgan?
Yes, I actually had two correspondences.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Wow, that's awesome.
First, I was having across some residents who just had a comment, question / complaint about the reprofile of the intersection at Girdled and Hermitage, which was done, yes. The comment that I was made is when you're coming north the Hermitage and then coming on to Girdled, in order to stay outside the center line, that you had to drive sort of right tires off the road, and there was just a question of whose responsibility that was. It just was kind of a complaint about it, so wasn't too happy about it. Just said it was kind of a crappy.
Where the, you mean where the,
It's a
So if you're,
90-degree turn.
it's a,
You're-
yeah.
right,
it's
yeah,
a-
it's a-
So he said in order to not cross the center line, he had to put the right tires of his car off the shoulder every time. He drives through it every day and said it's kind of annoying. I
It is,
wouldn't,
it is a tough intersection.
wouldn't disagree with it. I don't know that I think that that really was made better when they did that, other than,
No, I'm not quite sure the logic there.
so, anyway.
I went through it the other day, we just kind of went two wheels.
Yeah, it's a little. Then the other correspondence was I was approached by a resident up off of Concord Hamden on a property that will abut to the property where the Riverside School District has brought to put the school. That a resident that was quite upset to hear that the township was in some kind of, or had asked if I'd heard that we were in negotiation about settling with the school district, and asked a lot of questions and complained about the potential impact to his property value of his house, that he hadn't intended to be next to a parking lot that was now gonna be lit 24/7 with lights and so forth. So I corresponded and responded with him and gave him some recommendations about talking to the trustees and voicing his concerns, just then pass them along as well.
Anything else? That was
That's it. Busy month for me.
Wow. Jerry?
No correspondence, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Peters? Nothing? Wow, quiet. Okay, nothing from me. Audience participation, number 8 on the agenda. It's an open area for general public comment to zoning commission on items which a public hearing is not scheduled. And there's nobody here except for Connie and Sue. But I shouldn't say no, I mean, as far as outside of the inside.
General public.
General
Just as long
public.
as the meeting always reflects that we don't
Right.
have public participating other than members of the, either, trustees or alternates to the zoning commission members who stand in and sit here.
And if anybody's watching at home, I mean, I hope that they see that we are in fact tackling some issues that are important here. There's a lot of serious conversation going on about some things that are happening in the township, and it would be nice to get some input. I mean, you know, we welcome people. There's a reason why this item is on the agenda. And, you know, it's because we are looking for some residential input instead of having pitchforks and torches at public hearings and and elections. That's not always the time to deal with this stuff. Sometimes these things are in the here and now, and it would be nice to get some additional input from some people outside of the 5 people that sit here at this table once a month. Not that I don't value all of your inputs, but it sure would be nice to have somebody else chime in on every once in a while on what's going on here, or at least show some interest. It seemed like there was a lot of people that said they were,
Yeah.
you know, awake and, you know, everything was gonna be held to account, and that kind of all dissipated rather quickly. So it'd be nice to see some participation. Anyway, item number 9 on the agenda is the next zoning commission meeting of April 3rd. 2018, we will have a public hearing on the agenda at that point, correct? Have a public hearing. Anything else anybody wants to see put on the agenda? Anything else we need to cover? This meeting's adjourned.